it's Adrian. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to bring you a spoiler-free series review for the Selection series by Kiera Cass. Now these are the first 3 books, the first original trilogy. Later on, she decided that she was going to add on 2 more books as a sort of spin-off series to the series, which takes place amongst the next generation. So I'm not going to be talking about those books today because I haven't read those yet, just the original trilogy. I have heard, however, that those books, the last 2 books, the spin-off books, are not as good as the trilogy, so I won't be reading them anytime soon, but when I do read them, I will make sure that I do a review on them as well. So let's start off by talking about a series overview. This is, for those of you who don't know, about a girl named America Singer, and she is selected to be one of the 35 daughters of Elea, which are basically the people from their own country that are chosen to marry the prince. This book is kind of like a dystopian contemporary mix, which is a really interesting combination. But basically the daughters in this world are married off to princes of other countries, and the princes are given a selection of women who are from the country to choose from various social classes. Most women are very excited to be able to be part of this selection process, but America is not, because she's in love with a man from a lower class named Aspen. But she's under a lot of pressure from her parents and from Aspen to enter into the selection. She does, and she gets chosen. And so the series kind of follows her journey throughout this whole selection process. It has been compared to The Bachelor, and I definitely agree. It is very close to The Bachelor. It is definitely a fluff read, but a good, interesting fluff read. Let's start off by talking about the plot of the first book. Like I said, it follows America and her journey through the selection in order to be married to Prince Maxim, but it also talks a lot about the world and how the politics are set up, but it also gives you a few glimpses into what you can expect in the rest of the series for politics. What I liked about this first book is that it wasn't pure fluff. It had some depth to it. It had intrigue as far as political wise goes. It had some character intrigue. I really enjoyed the plot of the first book. When I finished the first book, I moved on to the second book, and the second book I did not like. Not plot wise, not character wise. I will get into characters later, but the second book was my least favorite book in the series. I felt like, as far as plot wise goes, it just kind of dragged out this selection process, and it didn't really have any point to it except to make me absolutely frustrated with the characters. So I feel like if they had made book 1 and book 3 a little bit longer, this would have made a really great duology. But as far as plot goes for book 2, I really wasn't impressed. And then we move on to book 3, which was completely the opposite. Book 3 is my favorite book in the series because you get some continuation of the plot that they set up in book 1, and you get the political intrigue that was set up in book 1 and a little bit carried through in book 2, but things were really solved and they were explained, and you got a lot more answers to questions. I still have a few questions at the end of the book, but you did get some answers to these questions. And as far as the conclusion of the series goes, I had, again, a flip-flop moment. On one hand, I really loved the ending. I thought it wrapped it up nicely. But on the other hand, some of the characters made some really rash decisions at the very end of the book that I just didn't feel like helped the plot any. So on the one hand, I am satisfied with the ending of the trilogy. On the other hand, I just think it was a little bit ridiculous. The writing wasn't terrible, but I didn't really connect to it. Like, it wasn't aboundingly beautiful, or it wasn't really intricate or detailed. It was just kind of your typical, at least for me, your typical YA contemporary writing. It's just not bad, it's not great, it's average. It did make for a book that was really quickly read. I think I read each of these in 1 or 2 sittings. So that was really nice, especially for me when I'm in the mood for a YA contemporary or any contemporary. I don't really want to have to use my brain, so this kind of average writing style isn't usually an issue for me in these kinds of things. If I'm reading like a high fantasy book, I definitely need top of the line writing and world building. For these kinds of books, I'm a little more lenient. And now comes the part of the review where I have the most issues and the most to say. Let's start off by talking about the side characters, because the side characters I generally liked better than the main characters. The side characters I feel like had really great arcs. Like, we got to see them as individuals. They had some growing experiences. I flip-flopped with a couple of characters. I love them, I hate them, I love them, I hate them, but that was the way that they were intended, and I think it did really well to pull the story along. I sort of feel like the side characters saved this series. But now our three main characters. Let's start off by talking about America. In the first book, I found America to be very whiny. She whined about her appearance, she whined about Aspen, her boyfriend, she whined about Maxim, she whined about the other girls, and I understand fully that she's a teenager and this selection process is complete whirlwind. So I get that she was whiny, and so for the first book I sort of dismissed it because, you know, she needs to figure out what's going on. She's finding her place in this new world that she's in. All of a sudden she's been moved from a very low class up to a higher class, and she's living in the palace and she's competing for the prince, but she just couldn't figure out what she wanted and she just kept whining about it. I hoped when the second book came around that she would have some really great character growth because I saw a lot of potential in there. I saw a reason for her being whiny, and I saw a way for her to grow up in the second book. The second book came around and I absolutely hated her. I hated her. The second book honestly almost made me DNF the series. She complained about Maxim, and obviously it's a bachelor kind of story, so I'm not giving away any spoilers, but he has to go along with all these girls and figure out which one he wants to marry. So he's dating other girls, he's kissing other girls. She complained that she didn't like it. Obviously, I wouldn't like it either. In the third book though, she finally got that character development that I had hoped that she would get in the second book. She was making decisions more for herself. She was making decisions that affected her on a broader level. She was finally making commitments to the people that she needed to be committed to, Maxim, to her friends, to Aspen, all of these people that needed things from her that she wasn't giving them because she was being whiny and selfish. She finally got over it, and we saw a bit of her potential as a woman and not as a 17-year-old, 16-year-old whiny teenager. And that made me really appreciate her character. It definitely saved her for me. Let's move to Maxim. I liked Maxim in the first book. I found him charming and cute, and he was kind of the good guy, and he didn't really appreciate what was happening to him, but that's his country, it's his duty, he's a prince, he has to do it. He genuinely tried to connect with all these women, and it wasn't a huge sex fest, and that's what I really liked about this book, is that it's suitable for a younger audience because it's not full of sex all the time. In fact, I don't think there was any sex in this book, which was refreshing. But I feel like in the second book, we lost a little bit of that from him. We didn't see him being so genuine. He kind of was playing games, it felt like. And I feel like it didn't match his character. But again, in the third book, that was resolved. I feel like he was doing the right thing for him and for his country. My one issue with Maxim in the third book is that at the very end, he seemed to flip-flop as a character. He went from one extreme to the other and back to one extreme again. And it just didn't feel like it fit his character very well. And then we move on to Aspen. I have a hard time deciphering what I feel about Aspen because on the one hand, I feel bad for him because he's always being put on the second burner and he's being played with. On the other hand, I don't feel bad for him at all because he's putting everybody in danger by decisions that he's making. And I think that he should be the responsible one of all of these characters for various reasons that come along throughout the book. But he's got the most life experience. I feel like he should have been making better decisions throughout the book. Maybe I'm being a little bit judgy, but I feel like he should have been making better decisions. So those are all my thoughts about the characters. I had a lot to say about them because this is probably the most complex feelings that I've had about characters in a long time, and that's what made me really want to talk about this book. Because the one thing that I have learned from reading this series is don't give up on a series too quickly, because I was okay with the first book. The first book selection, I gave it 3.5. The second book I didn't like, I gave it a 2.5. The third book though got a 4.25 for me. I really liked it, so I'm so glad that I continued. All in all, for the series, it ends up getting a 3.5 for me. I do recommend it, especially if you're in the mood for just some fluff. If you can handle a little bit of frustration, because Most contemporary novels are just filled with frustration. If you can handle a little bit of frustration, I would recommend them, especially for the nice summertime, springtime reads. I feel like I'm always in the mood for contemporary in the summertime and springtime. That's it for the spoiler-free series review. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I'd love it if you subscribe and become part of my little bookish community. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time. Bye.